Hey guys, welcome to day 2 of Presence Week. I pray and I hope that you had a wonderful day 1. And day 2, we are talking about obedience to his commands. In fact, this entire week is all about discipleship. And we're going to be taking you through a few key points of this discipleship process. And today we're talking about obeying his commands, that our hearts would be soft towards him. I want to read John 14:21 to you. It says, "Those who accept my commands and obey them." So, number one, you accept them. Number two, you obey them. They are the ones who love me. And because they love me, my Father will love them. And I will love them and reveal myself to each of them. You notice what Jesus says is the prerequisite to loving him. It's not a feeling. It's not just worshiping him. It's not just going to church or giving of your tithes, but it's to obey him. It's to do what he says. It's easy for us to say, I love you, isn't it? And maybe in the beginning when you were going out with somebody, it might have been really, really hard, right? You're fumbling through the words. What do I say? I really, really care for you. I love hanging out with you. But can I tell you what's even more than saying I love you? It's actually putting that into action. It's difficult sometimes to live a life of love thinking of the other person. It requires sacrifice. Talk is cheap, but obedience requires sacrifice from you. And I think so many of us have this false notion that following Jesus is easy. And I personally believe that living for God is sometimes more difficult and more challenging than living for yourself. However, living for God is more fulfilling and more joyful, and you are more at peace than living with yourself. I was recently talking to a pastor, and he had planted churches all over the area, 2 in Hong Kong, 1 in China, 2 in Korea, I think. And at first, when God asked him to do something, he reluctantly obeyed. And he would say things like, "Oh, really? Do you really want me to do that?" But then when I listened to his journey, at the end, there was a completely different tone to the obedience. And he said to me this. He said, "You know what? Jesus, what a privilege it is for you to use me. What a beautiful heart to have." And at first, sometimes it can be like that. It can be, "Jesus, you really want me to do that? You really want me to give that? You really want me to share that with someone?" But then I would love us to have this posture, that when we obey God, it is the privilege to be used by him. Obedience doesn't go from, it's not just obligation, but I would love it if it went from obligation to love. That you love Jesus so much that your number one goal is to please him. How can you obey him more immediately today, more completely today, more totally today? Have a good day 2 of Presence Week. We'll see you again tomorrow.